Hello and welcome to episode 372 of the Thinking LSAT podcast. I'm Nathan Fox. That's Ben Olson. Together, we're the co-founders of LSATdemon.com and the LSAT Demon Daily podcast. If you want to be LSAT famous, you can get on an upcoming show by emailing help@thinkinglsat.com. This show is going to air on Monday, October 17th. There's nothing super pressing happening right now. The October LSAT just happened on October 14-15. We'd love to hear how that went for you. If you want to email us, the score for that test is going to come out on November 2nd, and next registration deadline is not until December 1st is our registration deadline for the January 2023 LSAT. Come to my free classes, please. Every other Friday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, I do a free LSAT class. The next one coming up on Friday, October 21st is called How Do I Know When I'm Ready? Hopefully come join so we can talk about how to decide whether you should or should not take the official LSAT. How are you going to know when you're ready to take the official LSAT?
I would imagine it has something to do with your practice tests.
It has everything to do with your practice tests. Yeah. Like, have you done a lot of practice tests? Are you happy with the scores? Yeah. If the answer to both of those is yes, then you probably can go ahead and take the test. If the answer to either of those is no, then maybe not, especially the second one. If you're not happy with your practice test scores, then you don't have any business taking an official LSAT. But there'll be a lot more in that class. So come to lsat.link/Nathan if you want to register. You'll just need a free LSAT Demon account, which you want anyway, because there's all kinds of cool stuff available for free at lsatdemon.com. Today on the show, let's see, what did we do? We had a bunch of mailbags. We did a logical reasoning question from PrepTest 73. Yep. And we started off with some helpful tips about task management. Should we do it?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's jump in.
Okay, Ben, you put this thing here on the agenda, The 4 Ds of Task Management by Ashley Jansen.
Yeah, I just came across this week. It was a good reminder for me. I've heard these ideas before, but like a lot of things in life, you just stop doing them as religiously as you probably should. So every day, every week, I have a list of things that I'm trying to get done. And the 4 Ds of task management that Ashley is talking about is deleting tasks, delegating tasks, deferring tasks, and then doing tasks. And I don't do enough of the first 3, deleting, delegating, and deferring, right? I let things pile up and then somehow give them more importance than they actually have. And there's never going to be an end of things to do. Right? The world is full of problems. Our lives could always be better, even if they're going amazing. There are things that we just want to do more of or improve or whatever. But the problem with having a task list, especially on a computer or a phone, is that it can just grow every day. You think of things to do. Our minds are great at thinking about problems or tasks to do. But the reality is that okay tasks can be a distraction from the most powerful task, the task that actually moves the ball forward in a way that's meaningful. So anyways, the point is here are some questions that she asks as she looks at her task list. So first, under delete, is it my priority or someone else's? So sometimes, right, tasks get on our list and it's really someone else who wants us to do those things. Do we really want to do those things? I mean, maybe you have to because it's your job, but it's a fair question.
Well, 5 people on the email chain and, the ball's not in your court. You could just delete it, right? Or archive it.
Yep, absolutely. Here's another question. What will happen if I don't do it? A lot of times tasks are imagined to be serious, but they're actually not.
Well, yeah. And so I'm thinking about my inbox. I am a believer in inbox zero, but I go back and forth on how good I am about actually doing inbox zero. And
like how you get there, you're saying.
Yeah. Well, or if I get there, right? Like I don't religiously get down to zero all the time. When I'm on my shit, I do, but sometimes I'm not on my shit. And sometimes I start getting overwhelmed because I fall into that trap of reading the email and then not processing it, right? I need to either delete it, delegate it, defer it, or do it.
Yep.
And instead, I just read it and think about it. And I use my inbox as a to-do list, which is not what the inbox is for. And so, that what will happen if I don't do it? I mean, because what happens if you leave shit in your inbox is you're going to end up not doing those things. I mean, by definition, you're not doing them. You're just leaving them in your inbox. And so you're not doing it anyway. So, I think that discipline, the inbox zero discipline, if I wasn't going to do anything with it, I could just hit archive and get it out of my brain.
Get it out of your brain. Yeah. It's like you're holding on to the belief or hope that it will happen so that you don't have the pain of letting go of it. But it would be better to let it go and move forward.
Yeah. And it's like a conscious decision to not do anything instead of a passive, default decision not to do anything. I think it's especially critical when there's more than just one other person on the email chain. Like we've been talking about some business stuff lately, and there's been multiple people on the chain, and there have been many instances, you might have noticed this, where I just didn't respond. That's kind of like me. That actually is frequently me consciously deciding, okay, I was there, I read it, I could have chimed in, but how many emails do we need? Like, if you're not asking me a specific question, I don't have to like word vomit my thought process on every single issue. Right. So instead, it's just like, well, what'll happen if I don't respond here? I don't know. One of those guys will pick up the thread and have something to say, or not. That's fine too. And it's just like, okay, archive. All right. Okay. So that's the ideal, is to just delete it.
That's the ideal. Yeah. Get it out of there. Because
not my
the fastest
job.
Way.
Somebody else's department. I don't need to do anything. Nothing's going to happen if I don't do shit. Archive. Okay.
The next D is delegate. And here are the questions. What should I not be responsible for?
Wow.
Sometimes we take on things we shouldn't because someone else could do it, or even someone else could do it better.
That book, Essentialism, we've talked about it on the podcast multiple times, but that book talks about how when you say no to things, you're saying yes to other things, and that you have to actually develop a discipline of saying no. No, that's not me. Nope, not my thing. You just can't do it. You don't have to be a dick about it. You can say it as politely as you want, but to just say, yeah, that's a thing that I am not going to do.
And that book also talked about how people tend to respect you more. People are afraid to say no because they're going to get in trouble for not helping or being a team player. And of course, if you say no to everything, that might be true. But in a lot of cases, if you're saying no to things that are not where you can contribute the most, people will respect that because they'll realize that in the bigger picture, you're going to end up doing more for the team. And that's what matters. Next question. Can someone else do it? Can someone else do it better? Can someone else help me even? Can I hire someone to do this? All good questions.
Yeah, I mean, especially at an executive level, right? If there are other people who could do it, if we have resources available, then it probably shouldn't be the like primary decision maker in the organization doing things that other people could do. So you should be looking for ways to spread it around as a default. I like it that do is last on the list. It's like, let me try to peel away all of the ways that I could have my time wasted by this item, and instead just either ignore it entirely or delegate it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Next one is defer. Can I push it back? Is there a more convenient time? This one I think can be a double-edged sword. sometimes it's very tempting to push back things that are high value. So on my to-do list, I will often tag things that are of high value that I could see really changing what's going to happen next for everything I have going on. And those things often don't come with a deadline. And so I like this idea of not overwhelming yourself with too many tasks on one day or in 1 week or in a month or whatever. But I think you have to be careful here because it's easy to push things back that actually matter the most. Last one is due. So whatever's left, you figure out what you're going to do.
Yeah, I can see this being a good way to address your, let's say you get back from vacation or get back from the weekend, or maybe it's just Tuesday morning and you've got an inbox that's stuffed or a to-do list that's stuffed, and you could kind of go through it systematically. Like, okay, which of these things I can straight up delete them and nothing's going to happen.
Yep.
Like, it's not going to matter if I delete all this / unsubscribe, right? Like you're on some dumb newsletter or advertising, whatever, or like, even just, we really need to normalize taking yourself off of the thread in email, right?
Yeah.
I know you get emails where it's like, there's 8 people on this thread. Why am I on this? I do not want these emails. And, to just say, hey guys, you guys got it handled. Take me off of this, please. Move yourself to BCC,
Yeah.
so that you don't get replied all. Anyway, go through and delete them. Then if it's important, but you don't necessarily have to do it, you can delegate it or at least get help for it.
Yep.
There are things that just don't have to happen right now. There's things that would be more efficiently done tomorrow than today.
Yeah. Yep.
And so we can just defer those, and then all the rest of them, then okay, now you've got your actual to-do list.
Yeah.
I like it. That's cool.
Cool.
We have here we got a little lighter day in the mailbag department. So we have a logical reasoning question on our agenda.
Okay.
I'm going to read it and Ben is going to do it. So I'm going to try not to inject too much of my own thoughts here and just see how Ben reacts.
Okay.
I will stop at periods for you, so you can give me your reaction as we're reading the argument. Remember, in LSAT Demon world, we do not read the question first. It's a gimmicky, just dumb way of doing logical reasoning. You need to attack the argument. So we're going to attack the argument, and then we're going to move on to the question. And then finally, we're going to move on to the answer choices. This question is from Test 73, Section 4. It's question number 14. The environmentalist says, pollution from gasoline burned by cars contributes to serious environmental problems.
Okay. That's not saying anything new to me. I've always thought that the pollution coming out of cars is a serious problem. I'm waiting for where this is going to go, though.
Yeah, you read that, you go, what else is new?
Yep.
But the cost of these problems is not reflected in gasoline prices.
Okay. Let's stop there for a half second. That too is not surprising to me. There's an inefficiency, right? If we were to actually charge drivers the cost that their damage is imposing on the environment, then the tax on gasoline would probably be enormous. It might be, instead of $5 a gallon, it might be $10 a gallon. That extra $5 is trying to clean up all the shit you're putting out into the air. So far, none of this is new to me. It makes sense.
Yeah, it's hard to put a price on the heat death of the planet, right?
Yeah.
So, like, if we're all of a sudden talking about like the state of Florida being under 2 feet of water and, like drought and famine and war and all the type of shit that we think, in 2022
unfold. Yeah.
is potentially going to be caused by global warming, then we can see those costs. Economists, by the way, call that a negative externality. And economists would want to price that negative externality into the gas so that when you buy gas, you're also paying for the heat death of the planet.
And then we would consume it at a level that would be at least more rational, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Side note, but I mean, like, when you listen to economists talk about this stuff, it really is kind of amazing that like every economist agrees that we should have a carbon tax.
Yep.
They're all just like, oh yeah, no, it's clear. You have to charge for it. You have to have a carbon tax.
Yeah.
Okay, well then why can't we do it? Politicians.
Yep.
Like, it's just impossible. Even though every economist agrees, yeah, that's the clear solution is that you just have to price it in. Price it in, it's done.
And then people will adjust on their own. They'll make their own decisions based on what makes the most sense for them. This is what it really costs. Do you want to pay for it? Some people will say yes. A lot of people will say no.
Yeah. Okay. The cost of these problems is not reflected in gasoline prices and hence usually does not affect consumers' decisions about how much to drive.
Okay. They don't have to pay for it. So does that mean it doesn't affect their decisions about how much to drive? Probably so. Although I would say the fact that it's free might affect their decision and by encouraging them to drive more than they otherwise would have. So I'm a little confused by the phrase not affect. It just doesn't seem to be slowing them down.
Usually.
Yeah.
There are some exceptions, of course, super environmentalist, like they realize that gas is wildly underpriced for what it should be if it was considering these negative externalities, but they still might be, might never drive.
No, absolutely. There are tons of people who choose not to drive because they know the problems that occur, even though they don't have to pay for them at the pump.
Yeah. Okay. Heavier taxes on gasoline, however, would reflect this cost. And as a result, consumers would pollute less.
There's some claims here that are debatable. Would heavier taxes actually reflect this cost? It depends on how heavy those taxes are. Would, as a result of these heavier taxes, would consumers pollute less? Depends on what they would do instead, right? Maybe they stop driving, but then instead they start doing something else that's even more polluting. I don't know. But despite those objections I have, this is kind of the conclusion I would come to. So I don't totally disagree with this. It seems to make pretty much sense.
And in real life, every economist basically agrees. They're like, sure, you tax, build it into the price with the tax, and that'll get the behavior that you want.
Yep.
Okay. So that was the passage. It feels like the environmentalist is making an argument there.
Yep.
The question says, the environmentalist statements, if true, most strongly support which one of the following? So now what are you thinking?
Well, this is a supported question, but I'm just going to treat it as which one of the following answers must be true. And as I go through each answer choice, I'm going to ask myself, does this have to be true given what I just read? If for any reason it doesn't have to be true, I'm going to cross it out.
Okay. And you're letting go of your objections now there were some small objections, right?
Yeah,
like, well,
maybe they'll pollute more because they're going to go do something else that's worse. Doesn't matter because it says the environmentalist statements, if true. So, okay, I'm just going to accept that all is true, including the environmentalist's conclusions.
Yep. Even if it was an argument, even if you had some, quibbles with it, or bigger than a quibble, even if you had big problems with the argument, you still have to accept it all, everything that they said as true, and then just go find something supported by their conclusion or supported by their statement.
Yep.
All right. A says, the cost of pollution from driving should not be reflected in the price of gasoline unless the amount of pollution produced would be reduced as a result.
Okay. So this first part, the cost of pollution from driving should not be reflected in the price of gasoline, is going in the exact opposite direction of this passage. So even though there's this caveat, the general rule is bad. I'm done. This answer is wrong.
B, heavier taxes on gasoline would increase consumers' awareness of the kinds of environmental problems to which pollution from driving contributes.
I don't like the awareness in this answer choice. I have no idea whether they would become aware of the problems. They will almost certainly become aware of the higher prices and then adjust their behavior because of that. but they may not know why the prices are higher. So wrong.
Yeah, they might already be aware of Florida about to go underwater and famine and war. And they might already know that these problems exist. They just don't give a shit because they're paying 99 cents a gallon at the pump.
Or they
Make
don't
them
know
pay
and they never find
$10
out.
at the pump. Yeah, right.
We have no clue. Yeah.
Yeah, they just might drive less if you taxed gasoline. They don't have to know anything. They just have to know the price of gas.
Yep.
Okay. C, consumers would purchase less gas on average if the cost of the environmental problems to which pollution from driving contributes were fully reflected in the price of gasoline.
Yeah. I mean, that's what this passage was saying.
It feels like exactly what they said.
It's literally what they said. I mean, it's a little, it's easier to accept C because they said if the prices were fully reflected in the gasoline. They even said that actually. That was one of the things I took a quibble with. They said heavier taxes on gasoline, however, would reflect this cost. And I'm like, really? It depends on how heavy those taxes are, but it doesn't even matter. This is exactly what was said in the passage. So great.
I guess it's a necessary assumption, right? Because it says it doesn't actually say that they would purchase less gas. It says that
true.
they would pollute less.
They would pollute less, and it's like, well, why? But presumably
because of gas prices.
Yeah, getting less gas. Okay,
yeah, it's going to change the amount they drive. So yeah, so the argument necessarily assumes that they're going to buy less gas. So you're happy with C?
I'm happy with it. Maybe that's why this is a most strongly supported question. They're just like, okay, well, we didn't literally say this, but geez, what the hell else would they have meant? So
yeah, it seems like the LSAT used to have more just hard must be true questions, and now they kind of soften it a little bit in the question and just say which one, if the statements are true, which one is most strongly supported by those statements instead of which one must be true based on those statements. And that might just be the, legal department at LSAC.
Yeah.
Like just saying, well, instead of just making them strict must be, we could have answers that are still strictly must be true, but we just ask the question in a way that makes it a little more defensible.
Yeah.
I don't know. Speculative. D, the only cost considered by most consumers when they are deciding how much to drive is the cost of gasoline.
We have no idea. Way too strong. They may consider other costs. We know that they do consider the cost of the gasoline, but could they consider the wear and tear in their car? Probably.
Yeah, or the opportunity cost, the time that they have to drive, the safety risk of driving, whatever.
Yep.
We just don't know that they don't think about those things. E, pollution from gasoline burned by cars will be reduced only if consumers give more consideration to the cost of that pollution when deciding how much to drive.
No, there could be other means by which pollution from gasoline gets reduced. Maybe we run out of oil in the ground.
Yeah. Okay. I wasn't even thinking about that, but like, what if we just ban driving? I mean, they're doing it in some states, right? Like banning gasoline cars.
Yeah.
So the consumers might not know shit. Like they could just be real dumb and just not have access to a gasoline car anymore.
Yeah.
Or totally compatible with these facts, they could just say, whoa, $10 for gasoline? Well, I'm not doing that.
And they don't know why. Yeah, they don't know.
They don't have to know that half of that is taxes to try to cover up these negative externalities.
Yeah.
So they do not have to be considering the cost of pollution. They could just not want to pay the price.
Yep.
Cool. And the answer is C. That's that.
Yep.
All right. Next item on the agenda is an email from Anonymous.
Okay. Hello, Ben and Nathan. I recently took the September LSAT after intense studying for 3 months with LSAT Demon. My diagnostic was in the 140s, and my practice tests before the September LSAT were spanning from 160 to 163. Long story short, I got a 158 in September, which was a little lower than I expected. It is the 25th percentile for SMU, my main goal school. I have since decided to take a year or two to work and give myself another chance to study for the LSAT. Okay, great. I know I made the mistake of taking the September LSAT when I wasn't ready because I felt pressured to apply to law school right away. Now I want to make more time to study and reach a higher score. ideally 165 to 170 range. I'm unsure how my 158 will look if I score significantly higher on my second attempt. Do you think that the 158 on my record will hurt my chances at law schools like UT Austin and George Washington, schools I would like to apply to if I can get a high enough LSAT score? My current GPA is a 3.98. Thank you. Wow. Okay, great. Great GPA.
Yeah. Don't make your 3.98 sad. A 158 was going to make your 3.98 sad. Like you would have got into SMU, but they would have charged you full price. If you get into the 170s, like you're not even going to want to go to SMU anymore. I don't think.
No.
SMU, that's Southern Methodist. Is that right?
I don't know.
I'm going to lsatdemon.com/scholarships. Anonymous, they don't care about lower scores. They care about your highest score. Many law schools say that explicitly. Other law schools just do it in fact. And it's very apparent when you start looking at their 509s. SMU is ranked 60th in the country. Their LSAT range is narrow. 25th percentile, 158, 75th percentile, 164. There's only 6 points to, from the 25th to the 75th percentile. So half their school is between 158 and 164. And the rock stars are above 164. And those people are, I'm sure, going to be getting scholarships. Looking down the 509 report, 97% of students at SMU get a grant.
97.
Most of those are scammerships. 78% of the class is getting less than half tuition, but 15% is getting half to full and 4% is getting full. So, there's a 20% of the class, like the people who are above their 75th percentile for LSAT and GPA, and you are above their 75th percentile for GPA. So, get your 167, and I think SMU now becomes a school that has to give you a full ride, or else you're just going to go somewhere better. Like they have to be worried about you going to UT instead. And with a 170 something, you're a great candidate for UT, at which point you'd be insane to pay money to go to law school in Dallas instead.
Did we hammer home that the 158 won't matter at all? This correspondent is asking, do you think the 158 on my record will hurt my chances? No, it does not matter.
Yeah, it only would matter if you were competing against someone else who had the exact same high LSAT that you have, the exact same GPA that you have, the exact same everything else that you have. And if they really can't think of any reason to differentiate between the two candidates, then they might look at your record and go, ooh, what's this 158? That's just such an edge case that it's nothing you should ever be thinking about. U.S. News and World Report doesn't care about the 158. U.S. News and World Report will never know about the 158. They'll only know about the highest score because that's what the schools report to the ABA and to the world. And that's what U.S. News uses when they do rankings. The whole public record is only going to show the highest score that you ever achieved. So schools will see the 158 when you apply, but I think that their spreadsheets are going to take the highest LSAT you ever had, and then they're going to do their index calculation on you, not the low.
Yeah.
You'll always look better if you take it again and score higher, no matter how many attempts, no matter how poorly or how well you scored in the past. If you can score better, you should take it again. You will always be a better applicant with that high LSAT on record.
Yep.
All right. Next one came in through support. It says, I guess it's anonymous again. It says, hi, Ben and Nathan. I was able to land a 174 on the September LSAT after a 152 diagnostic. Okay. 22 points improvement. That's nice. I have a lower UGPA, but I graduated in 2019. My UGPA is a 3.5.
I'm glad you told us what your UGPA was, because people who say they have a lower UGPA can be referring to just about any UGPA.
It could have meant 3.8, and it could have also meant 2.5.
Yeah.
So the number is what's what really matters here. Okay, I'm wondering if it'd be worthwhile to retake the 174. I'm PTing a 175 average, but have gotten lower one-off scores that have freaked me out. I don't want to score lower and raise any red flags. As we just told Anonymous above, ain't no red flags. If you retake it and score a 171, they're just going to consider you to be a 174.
Yep.
The only reason I'm considering a retake is because of my low UGPA. However, I have been working as a paralegal for the past 3.5+ years. So there is some distance between me and my UGPA. I mean, not really. Like a couple years is nothing.
Yeah.
And
some people are 10 years out. Some people are 20 years out.
Yeah.
It's a number.
I don't think that has any bearing on anything whatsoever. I mean, the numbers are the numbers, right? When you apply, they're going to say, okay, do I want a 3.5 174 as a member of my class? Like how many years ago it was doesn't show up on the 509. So I don't think they really care very much about that. My goal is a low T14 or anything from a number 10 to number 20 school. I don't know. LSATdemon.com/scholarships. I'm going to put in a 3.5 and a 174, and I'm going to hit update.
I'm doing the exact same thing.
Okay, so
and then you're going to march up, right? You're going to go from a 174 to a 175 and see how things change.
Yeah, on a 174, it looks like you could get a full ride to University of Florida. That's 21st in the country. But I see some more than half scholarships at like USC, Boston University, WashU in St. Louis. If we bump it up to even a 175, okay, so that added UT Austin more than half, Vanderbilt more than half.
Mm-hmm.
At a 176, WashU full tuition, that's 16th in the country. More than half now at UCLA. 177 adds a full tuition at Boston University.
Yeah.
178 adds full tuition at UCLA. And now you're looking at more than half at Northwestern, Duke, Michigan. So now you're actually, Michigan, 10th in the country. 179, it doesn't really change. More than half at Duke, more than half at Cornell. 180 doesn't really change anything. Those are real differences. Yeah. I mean, they're estimates, but yeah, I'm guessing that a WashU in St. Louis is not going to be, so thrilled at a 3.5 174, but a 3.5 178, they definitely might be.
Yeah.
We just recently got an update. This actually isn't on the agenda, but I'm going to read it anyway. We got an email from Lily Taylor.
Okay.
That said, I know you've talked about WashU's scholarship ranking climbing strategy on the show before. It would seem it's about to pay dividends. They released their stats for the class of 2025 today, and I have a link here for that. The median LSAT jumped from 170 to 172, and their 75th percentile also rose 2 points from 171 to 173. That's right in line with top 10 schools. And Lily speculates, I'd be surprised if their U.S. News and World Report ranking doesn't get a bump.
Depends on what happens to all the other schools around them. But yeah, that's a big factor.
That's why until it came up, I didn't put it on the agenda just because I was thinking, and here I'll paste it into the agenda for you, Ben, if you want that link. But I didn't add it to the agenda at first because that was my immediate response was, well, let's see where the medians go at all the other competitor schools. Because I do get the sense that I don't know why, but since COVID, LSAT scores have gone up.
Since COVID, which is also right when the demon really took off.
I wonder. Yeah. No, not taking entire credit for the increase. There's been some real changes, right? So like the main changes I think are people working from home, studying from home. I think it's vastly more efficient. You
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
if I had a boss telling me, no, you got to come back to the office, I'd be like, fuck you. Like, I'm not doing that. And
Yeah.
not, you know, and I do, and now not to say that there's not some reasons why people need to go back to work or back to school in person. But for professional people, you know, for people who are going to be on their bullshit, and I know lawyers who definitely fit that description. I mean, if you tried to tell Cole Black that she had to go back to the office, she'd be like, "Are you fucking insane? What? I'm working 12 hours from my desk at home. If that's not good enough for you, then fuck off." And um, I have a feeling that that's what many of like the ballers in the world are going to do, right? It's just like, no, I know my value and you're not getting me back into I'm not going back into the rat race.
Hmm.
I'm not a commuter. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's a digression, but the point is like our students, I think, are more efficient at LSAT studying now because they don't have to commute to work anymore or commute to our classes anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why scores might have gone up. Another reason why scores, especially at the top end, might have gone up is that they did change the balance of scoring on the test since the LSAT Flex and now the new just online LSAT. I mean, I think they made the LSAT easier at the top end. They made the LSAT easier because they increased the weighting of the games.
Yep. Games is what people can ace, and now they're a third of the test instead of 25% of the test. It's and the weird thing is, and you've mentioned this 300 times on this show, but the silence about that, given all the concern that they have about, validating questions, validating the test, change the balance of the test, no big deal.
They did. They dropped one section of logical reasoning. They then therefore made games worth 33% of the test instead of 25% of the test. Games is the section that you really can perfect. I mean, I did that free class yesterday, the one what's it take to score 170? I thought it was awesome because Lily, Abigail, and Eric were all there. So like I had each of them talk about what, they had to do to score 170 and I gave my perspective. And I let them all go first, and when it came to be my turn, I said, well, it hasn't been said yet, but I think we all agree that you probably need perfect logic games if you want to score in the 170s. And even more so now that they increased the weighting of the logic games, like if you're not getting to perfect on the games, good luck. You got to be really extra perfect on the logical reasoning and the reading comprehension to try to make it to 170s. Hell of a lot easier to do it via the games, right? So that's another reason why those scores are up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, to get back to Anonymous and their chances in the top 20 law schools, if you think you can score higher and you say you're averaging 175, yeah. Like I don't, can you imagine telling them don't bother?
No, we just saw the numbers come in, which also means your chances of admission are going up. I mean, schools are more likely to give you a full scholarship after you get to a 178 than before. That means you're also more likely to get in and more likely to get in other places, which you can use as leverage when you're deciding where to go. I would go for it. There's no downside and a lot of upside. That's always the case.
Yeah. I mean, you're freaking out about the lower one-off scores, right? This is a tragedy. It's a tragedy of like the way you're perceiving it,
Mhm.
because you're averaging 175, so you're probably scoring 175 or higher half the time or more than half the time. And the thing that's worrying you is that there's also a 172 or a 173 mixed in there. Who
Mhm.
gives a shit? They don't care. Like you're still going to be a 174 in their spreadsheet
Yeah.
if you do put a 171 onto your record. But if
Yeah.
you score a 175 or 6 or 7 or 8, then you're immediately going to be that higher number in their spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So you're worrying about an essentially non-existent downside, and it might prevent you from this very real upside. which also is so much more likely than the non-existent downside. You got to take it again. Write us back. Let us know how it went. But I think you're going to be happy if you take it potentially multiple more times.
Yeah.
And again, remember, if any school ever asks you, to explain why did you take it so many times, or explain why there's a 15-point jump, you just simply say, I knew I could do better, so I took it again.
Yep.
Or my practice test indicated I could do better, so I took it again. All right. Last one here. We got a bit of a shorter show today. Last one here from Zoning Out. You want to read it?
Yep. I estimate that I spend about 15% of my time on practice sections and tests zoned out. Well, that ain't good. And not doing anything productive. I have a score in the low 170s on record, and I'm averaging roughly 174 on practice tests in the Demon. I'm definitely leaving points out there, but no combination of rest, substances, and or determination has succeeded in fixing this. What do you want me to do? Secondly, the Demon is exceptional. I had no idea what I was missing when I just did test after test in Law Hub in preparation for my first try at the LSAT.
How do you avoid zoning out? It's a tricky one, huh? I mean, I think the first thing to do is to be aware of it. You're aware that the issue exists. If you've been trying to solve it with, sleep's important. You got to make sure you're getting your sleep. Determination is important. This is not a career for people who want the easy path. So those things I would say are necessary. The substances, I don't know what substances you're talking about, but not recommended to, like hyper abuse caffeine and or Ritalin or whatever. You got to solve it in your own brain. I don't know about smart drugs for this test, but the awareness. And then what do you do, Ben, when you become aware of the zoning out?
Well, part of that awareness is, when does this happen? I guess zoning out, this correspondent is aware on some level that he or she is zoning out, but like, what triggers that? And can you almost plan for it and then come back?
Yeah. It's the gentle return to the task at hand, right? And the task at hand is the passage in front of you, or the sentence in the passage in front of you, or the word in the sentence in the passage in front of you. And you just it's all about catching yourself, because when you catch yourself, I think you're going to realize, oh, I'm not doing anything right now. I need to be doing things right now. Let's get back to business. Is there a way to practice being aware?
Meditation.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's apps like Calm and Sam Harris's app.
Which is called what again?
I don't know.
Sam Harris's meditation app. There's also Headspace. There's all kinds of mindfulness shit out there that you could look into. And yeah, you really are my understanding of the entire practice of meditation is basically just to be more conscious of your mental processes. And so if you develop a mindfulness practice, then you might catch yourself in those moments of zoning out a little more readily, and then be able to, without judging yourself, without letting it like impact your whole performance, you just kind of go, oh, there I go again. I'm off, I'm fantasizing about what I'm going to eat for dinner, or having these terrors about my whole existential career crisis, and it's like, okay, well, either one of those is not answering this question. So let's just notice it and then gently just kind of come back to one word, one sentence, one passage. I don't know if I have a whole lot else to offer besides that.
Yeah, neither do I.
I think physical stuff can help a lot too.
Like exercise.
Well, yoga is like ultra meditative, yoga, like especially if you're doing like a restorative or yin type of a thing where you're like holding like some kind of uncomfortable, like hip stretch kind of a thing. You're like in pigeon pose and it's like, whoa, that is a position that my hip joint is not accustomed to. And that I can feel that like a lot. And then you just kind of like train yourself to notice it, but be okay with it and notice your mind spinning off in 1,000 directions, but then just kind of come back to like, follow your breath and just, stay present, I guess. Hopefully that's helpful. Thank you, everybody, for writing in. You can be LSAT famous. Get on an upcoming show by emailing help@thinkinglsat.com. If you have questions about LSAT Demon, you can email really the greatest customer service team in the world, help@lsatdemon.com. Check out our other podcast, LSAT Demon Daily. That was episode 372 of the Thinking LSAT podcast. Thanks all y'all for listening. Nice knowing you. Don't pay for law school.